So good afternoon. Back for another time of playing with some supplies here. Somebody asked what I know about the Derwent Inktense pencils. They're the watercolor pencils. And to be honest with you, not just a whole lot, but I will share with you what I do know. They come in a tin like this. The colors are very vibrant. All right, I have them flipped in different directions according to what I was using on another project. My swatches, I actually put down a lot of color and then just faded. I did that on all of them. So you can see the colors are very vibrant. The thing I do like is where you put down that initial color, the scribbling will pretty well go away. All right, now there's several ways to use these pencils. Let's start with, okay, I've got some paper towels. I've got, here is some watercolor paper. I can't get it all on the screen, but anyway, I'm gonna flip a page back here. I also have this book set up if we get time to get into it. I have a piece of plastic behind the page I'm working on because it might bleed through. Oh my goodness, what a mess here. Okay, sorry. Images of Grace is the name of the book. It's just one of my books that the pages are a little bit thicker, so that's why I have this one out here. And like I said, I have a huge craft mat and I just put it under that first page and I'm flipping it back underneath it. So that's what all that hoop to do is. So now, the watercolor paper. There are things to be said first about watercolor supplies though. These are the little ones that you can get, and you know how usually it's lefty loosey, righty tighty? This is the opposite. All right, you screw it off, you put your water in there, and then it's lefty. These actually came from, I believe, AliExpress.com. Everything's cheaper. It's kind of like the same people that do, is it Wish that you can order from? But anyway, the only thing is it takes a while to get this stuff in. They come in different widths. Okay, you can see this one's really a more fine tip. This one's chunkier. So you can get those. You can put water in them. You can put in some paint that's thinned or put in your watercolor paint. There is this brand. And these, not sure who even made these. It actually says push on the sides. Again, different type tops. Then there's this one. And I don't think that, yeah, the top's back on. And this was a 3-pack in different sizes. I pulled these two and went ahead and put water in them. We'll play with them today. And then here's another one. This has a big fat top on it. You see that? I'm not sure how in focus all this is just yet. But anyway, so I've got this pulled, and then I pulled also here. To use these, you do squeeze and get your water started coming. There's no water yet. Nothing yet. There we go. I can see it filling right here a little bit. This would be, oops, there it is, for when you're doing a big area. And I would always suggest doing it out on your hand or something first, because you don't want that coming blobbed out all over your paper. All right. So I'm going to get each one of these started. I'm doing this real time instead of being prepared so that you can see how long it takes. This particular brand, that got wet real quick. All right. And then I'm just putting them upside down in a cup so that they don't drip all over the place. Here's another one, squeezing. Oh, the drop's right there. And then if you put it through that water, it kind of helps activate it. And then you only squeeze these when you notice that your paint's not moving the way you want it to. Then you would squeeze it again, but just do a gentle squeeze. You don't want to really screw up the whole thing. Now let's start. I'm just going to grab a pencil. All right, this is red chili. So I'm going to put this down. This is watercolor paper again. See how it's very, very grainy. There's lots of tooth in this paper. I'm going to put down a good amount. And then, yeah, I plan on doing in a book also in just a bit. Now let me get the big one here. Remember this big one that we had? And I'm just going to start going over this. See how that activates? And see, as I play with it, the water is making that, and I'm not squeezing it. It's just that's how much water's coming out on here. And I think we needed to look at watercolor paper first, because you need to see this is continually dripping and I'm not even squeezing. So I don't care for that. To clean it, I'm just going over to a clean paper towel and I will give it a little squeeze to try to get the rest of that red out of there. Now, for you that know how to float when you're painting, I'm really trying to get that out. You know, one side of the brush is water and the other side is paint. And I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself on this. Okay, that's not doing what I want, so let's just stop with that. Let's go back. Let's put another color out here. And see, that's really wet. So here's another color. In fact, let's just do this. This is called Baked Earth. Yeah, got me. So let's try these other brushes. So here's this one. And remember, we've already primed it. So I'm going to come in and see it gets lighter and lighter. I can come back in. I will tell you one thing about these brushes that I do like. Well, it's good and bad. Once they've dried, you can layer over the top. It will not disturb what's underneath. Now at the same time, and this is a very fine point one, it makes it really hard to blend another color to it unless you put it down at the same time. Does that make sense? So just lightly squeezing as I wipe that off. Always wipe them off as you go. They can stain your brush tips, but more than that, you don't want it to dry in there or to have thought that you rinsed it and then you didn't. See, these little ones are working pretty good, except there is water still dripping down this. I can see it. So my vote is for this one. And I'm sorry, I wish I could tell you where I got it, but it's the ones that are longer and have colored tops. I'm thinking it was probably Hobby Lobby or Michael's, might have been Joann's, but it was not from overseas. That I can tell you. All right, so another way you can use these. You can get an index card, scribble over on the index card with whatever colors you're wanting. That is a green. I'm going to grab another green and I'm going to put it up here. And then let's say we have a leaf. All right. And we're wanting to color that leaf. I can come in here with the dark and come around. Now I've got to keep a wet edge or it's going to start drying. Then I can come right into the next one. And as long as I'm doing it while it's still wet, I'm safe. Do you see that? And they blend. If I want to do the stem, I'm going to have to keep a very light touch and then drag it in. And see what it did there? So I should have waited till that was dried. Coming into the lighter again and just lightening this side up. So there's how you can actually take index cards, put out your colors you're going to want, take your pen with you, go sit somewhere and sit and color. You don't have to carry the whole box of pencils with you. Okay? How else can you use them? What else have I done? I have played with them before. You can take your pencil and let's just draw a kind of square. Notice I said kind of. Put your pencil right next to it and just take the color right off the pencil and put it on there where you want it. And see, I can get it coming lighter as I come down. Now, what I was telling you earlier, the only thing that's moving on here is what didn't get totally saturated that first time. So like I said, there's lots of color in here. And this paper has a lot of tooth, so it's got color down in there. Let's see if we get anything up here moving. See, this edge is dry. It's not going anywhere. And if I try to blend another color with it, you can't blend because it's already dried. Now, once this is dry, can I go back and make that edge darker? Yes. And see, I can get it to fade out to nothing. Now, what I was saying earlier about painting, for anybody that knows what a float is, you put paint in one side of the brush and water in the other. So I'm going to squeeze the water from that side. I'm going to load my paint. And then what happens is when I come along here, and see, this is the one that it keeps. It's not going to work because it just keeps dripping. Yeah, I don't like these. So I will end up getting rid of these or just using them when I need water for something. Let's see if I can do it. Yeah, see, that just made a mess was all. Let's try that. Let's try it outside this. I can take it off the tip. Come along the edge. And then you've got to keep it wet. But I can fade that out. Okay, now, how does that convert to a coloring book? I'm glad you asked. I felt like you needed that beginning, though, to see. Now, again, the paper in this book is thicker, and therefore, it's not going to ripple quite as bad. I am putting some light on real quick. I feel like we need it. Now, let's say I want to do inside the box with yellow, and I want it to fade out as I go in. Well, that's a big challenge there, but we can do it. So I am going to take the yellow here. I am going to lightly color along this edge. And this is where I would go a lot slower with how much ink I put out there, how much of the Inktense. I'm trying to get water to come out and it won't come out. And now it may have already started drying. Yeah, I'm saturating my paper too much because it's not watercolor paper. So let's try this route. Put that on there, come across, drag in, and see I get a little bit of a fade that way. It's not going to work the same on that fade because it's not watercolor paper. Now, there are some artists out there that their books are on different types of paper and they're thicker. You've got better luck with those books. So when you think you're going to use your Inktense in everyday, see, yeah, that went all the way, that water's all the way through. When you think you're going to use Inktense in everyday application, it doesn't work that way. But can I go in and get different looks and just different, I don't know, the words I'm trying to say, it's a different method altogether. So now here I've got a light and a dark in the purples. All right, so I'm going to start with the light. It doesn't look very light to me. And I might need the bigger tip because that's just drying up way faster than I wanted it to. All right, so I'm going to get the light, put it on here. Then I'm going to go to the dark. Ooh, they're not even the same color. I thought they were like the same color family, purple. I don't have my swatches open to that page. But do you see how it did blend? So if you're into doing some sort of watercolor, it does work. And see, I'm just taking it off the tip of the pencil, coming in. Now because I know I want to blend, I'm going to go right to the other one. That top can dry. I'm okay with that. Because if I want to blend, I had to do wet on wet. Does that make sense? So if I let this dry and go back and play with this, then I wouldn't be able to blend here. But because it's still wet, I can overlap those and blend. And again, I'm not a watercolor artist. Yeah, I just barely dabble in it. I know it's very unforgiving, unlike paint, where if I mess up, I can just paint over the top. I think that's one of the things that's always scared me about watercolor. A watercolor is not easy to fix, and oils take a while to dry. So that's why I've always leaned towards my acrylics. And did you notice what I did that time? I put the dark on first, and you notice it did not blend as well. So I would say play on paper for a while first, find out what you can and can't do with them, or have an older book that is not your favorite and go to it and play there first. And after you've figured out what you can and can't do, then go over and start playing with your good pages. Yeah, I'm still here, just playing. So now this time I'm going to go back to the lightest. Come down here, then to the dark, and see how it blended easier. So there's going to be a learning curve, just like when you get different books with different thicknesses of pages and different tooth in them and all that, and you're wanting to see what you can really do. It's going to be the same way with this. There's going to be that learning curve. Yeah, I don't use these a lot. Now, when I go off screen, I'm coming over and getting the darker color off as I squeeze just gently. Then I'm coming back to the light. I wish I could float with these. And I may try it again yet. So, to float is to color one color and then it bleeds out to nothing. So normally I would have a fatter brush. See how that's fading to nothing? I'm having to lay the brush down to get the look, but I'm wanting it to fade out to nothing. But do you see how intense the color is? Isn't that pretty? It's just very vibrant. The ink tints are very vibrant. Now that's a little better. See how it fades? So that's what I was talking about earlier. And I'm having to squeeze this without it dripping like that. And that'll probably leave a ripple on my page. It's off camera, but it quite literally dripped right on the page. Okay, so that really is about all I know about ink tints. Again, you can color and then come back and get it wet. So I could come, let's try a color I haven't already been using. Let's just do green stripes. I know it's probably supposed to be the rays of sun, but you know what? We're playing. So now I'm going to use that one that was a finer tip. I'm going to squeeze, make sure I've got water down here, and I'm just going to go across each one of these. So if you're doing inside a specific area like this, your smaller brush is going to work well. Now, can you use a regular paintbrush? Oh heavens, yes. Yes. So, my paintbrushes, because I'm a painter first, I have cups of paintbrushes all over the place. Let's see. I'm going to squirt some water, because remember I said I would put water in one side of the brush and paint in the other. So I'm getting this brush wet, and it does take up a bit of time for a new brush or a dry brush to actually pick up. Okay, so this is picked up. I'm going to blot it. I'm going to take out what's in the toe of the brush. It's like a high heel. This is an angle. So I took out what was in the toe. I am going to take this yellow, load up the front end of my brush, and then I'm going to try to do a float here for you. I'm doing it kind of backwards, so it's as if I'm left-handed. But see how that really blends out? And it's because that water that's in the back end of the brush, when I reload it, I just went over and squeezed out the extras again. But do you see how vibrant those colors are? And see, because this is dry, I can go around this or through the middle of it and not worry about mixing that color. Now the back end of my brush is already dry, so I'm having to pick up more water again. Okay, so now if I actually got all the ink used the first time through, and if it's really dry, I can take this wet brush, go across it, and it's not going to smear. See? Because it stays where you put it. You're not going to be able to move it around. Now this one, I colored with it on there. Do you see how the background turned just a little bit green? It's because I didn't dissolve all the ink or the pencil when I put it on with the skinny brush, because I painted that right. I had the pencil on the paper and then added water. These others, I added them wet. So that's something to kind of watch. Just rinsing my brush. It's good to rinse your tools as you're using them so that you don't pick it up later and end up with a messy muck of mixed up colors. So I hope that will help you in understanding a little bit about how these pencils work. They're not hard, but you're going to have to be patient with them and give yourself time to get used to them. Okay, they're not a pick-me-up and just use them, but then neither is watercolor, from what I've been able to tell. All right, so I hope this helps. And again, for you that are supporting me, it's so that I can buy things like these pencils and try them out before you go to the big expense. So if there's something that you're wanting to see how it works, be sure and put the name of the product down below in the comments. If you would like to help support me in the endeavor to figure out products and stuff and just give me more time to be on here for you, scroll across the top of your phone over at the edge. It's going to say about. You can click on that, and there's a donation button down there, and every little bit helps. Yeah, the pencils are not cheap. I know you can get them at Michael's and use a coupon. I actually got them cheaper on Amazon. Yeah, so what pencils would you like to see me demo? And as our little donation button gets clicked more and I can afford to get whatever it is, I will get it and try it out for you, and hopefully save you some money if it's not what you were looking for, and if it is, hopefully be able to show you a little bit about it before you actually go to the expense. So, all right, that's all I've got. I'll see you next time. Bye.